Today I'm looking at Dehancer, which is a film emulation suite. I've been using it for a while now, and I just want to show you how I'm using it and why it's different to a normal LUT, and how you can get something to that analog feel without actually shooting film. Now, digital footage is clean and sharp and predictable, and sometimes, depending on what you're doing, it might actually look too sharp. Film is messy in a controlled way. It's got character, it rolls off highlights, it handles skin tones in a really forgiving way, and grain isn't noise, it's texture. Now, you can fake some of that manually, but properly modeling the physics of film, those optical processes like the way halation bleeds into those warm channels and the way that grain shifts by luminance. It's a bit of a rabbit hole, really. And Dehancer lives in that rabbit hole so you don't have to. Now, before you touch anything else, you need to tell Dehancer what kind of footage you're giving it, whether your footage is in Rec. 709 or whether it's in log from a specific camera. So anything shot on a standard picture profile or anything that's already contrasty and color corrected, just set to Rec. 709. If you're using log footage, anything flat and desaturated, then you want to choose your exact camera model and the log profile. You'll know if you've got it wrong if you see crushed shadows and highlights blooming in strange ways and colors shifting. So that input is the foundation for everything that comes after. Now that we've sorted the input out, you don't actually need to do that much work to get a great film look. Our film style is going to be mostly driven by three things: the stock, how it's developed, and the print. So we're going to pick our stock by mood, add a small push or pull if needed, and turn on a print stock to finish it. And yes, we're going to shamelessly steal from the masters. Cinematographers don't reinvent the wheel every time, they borrow from successful looks. Now, before we go into all the features, let's just throw some quick looks together. So if you want a natural golden daylight, think of that warm, lovely palette from one of my favorites, No Country for Old Men. This comes from daylight stocks like Kodak Vision 3, 250D, gentle color, lovely skin tones, nothing flashy. So let's just take this clip here. So we're going to choose the Kodak Vision 3, 250D. I'm going to add a push value of 1 just to recover some of that shadow detail. Just tweak the contrast. You can see the grain in there. I'm just going to turn the grain down a little bit because it's a little bit too chunky. But there you go. It doesn't take long to get a great look. Now, if you want a stylized, warm interior with that lovely cinematic glow, a rich tungsten warmth, something like Grand Budapest Hotel, or that glow of Pulp Fiction, you're going to get this from Kodak 500T and a cinematic print stock like 2383. Choose this mood for indoor nighttime scenes with tungsten lighting or nighttime exteriors. Colors are warm, vibrant. I love this look. Now, if you go for something like Fuji Eterna, this is going to work better for a cooler, softer look, something with subtle mid-tones, less of that punchy saturation. There are loads of film profiles to choose from, and they're always being updated. So now let's just go through all of the other tabs and have a look at the other features. So on the film tab, as well as the profile where you choose your film stock, you've also got push and pull. When film is developed for longer than normal, it's called a push. And when it's developed for less time, it's called a pull. Pushing adds more punch, it lifts the contrast, it deepens the shadows, and it makes colors stronger. Pull processing does the opposite. It softens the contrast, it keeps more detail in the highlights, and produces a gentler pastel look. We've got the Film Developer tab, which is self-explanatory really. You've got contrast, gamma, color separation, and a color boost. So next we've got Film Compression, and this handles the dynamic compression, especially in the highlight roll-off, and it makes highlights softer, more gradual, less clipped, and more film-like. Expand, this allows you to manually stretch or reshape contrast. Think of it as rebuilding black point, highlight point, or shaping the midtones. It's useful if your footage is a bit too flat. So next we've got print. Now this simulates the final step in a real film workflow. You shoot on film stock to capture the image, but the audience actually sees it on a print stock like the Kodak 2383 we saw earlier. That print stage adds richer blacks, stronger color separation, and a nice subtle cinema polish. Think of print as the final coat of varnish. It doesn't change the painting, it just simply makes it feel more complete. Then we've got color head. Now, Colorhead simulates the way color was adjusted in real film labs using color enlarger heads. The old school photochemical method of mixing cyan, magenta, and yellow. Instead of heavy digital correction, it lets you nudge the image in a more natural and film-like way. This is more like subtle tuning, not grading. It's perfect for refining skin tones and mood without changing the character of the shot. Next we have film grain. This is not digital noise. Noise looks like someone sprinkled sand on the picture. Grain is part of the image itself and it reacts to brightness. It's chunky in the shadows, it's tight in the midtones, and you can hardly see it in the highlights. Now most of the time one of the presets is going to work for you, but you can go into the custom settings here and choose the size and the amount of grain. You can see from this zoomed in view there's enough grain in the picture already, so I'm just going to turn this off. Next we've got halation. Now halation is that warm reddy orange halo you see around the bright lights in film. The light hits the emulsion, bounces inside it and bleeds slightly into the highlight. So candle flames, street light, but it does give highlights a nice dreamy cinematic glow that you don't get from digital. Bloom is optical glow from lenses, not from the film itself. It softens the hard edges of bright areas like metal reflections and windows, headlights. It turns them into a gentle atmospheric glow. You might want to add a little bit of bloom to add some romance, so it looks like you smeared a little bit of Vaseline on the lens. Now the next three are film imperfections. You've got film damage, film breath, and gate weave. Now these tools mimic the flaws that you'd see in old film reels or home recorded footage. Scratches, dust, tiny flickers in exposure, and slight jitter where the film doesn't quite sit perfectly in the camera gate. Now these are good storytelling tools for a nostalgic retro vibe, but they're not part of any normal modern film look. Real 35mm and 65mm film today is clean and stable, so for most projects less is more. Think of these imperfections as a special effect. Now overscan reveals the full frame of the film, including the edges that you weren't meant to see. Things like the frame borders, the sprocket marks, and any rough bits where the image runs out. It's useful if you want a raw behind the scenes or archival feel, but like imperfections, it's a stylistic choice rather than a part of a standard film look. Modern films are framed cleanly, so overscan is best used as a deliberate effect, not something to leave on by default. Then we've got vignette, which darkens the corners of the frame to subtly guide the viewer's eye. And Dehancer's version mimics real lens fall off rather than having that heavy digital spotlight look. Used gently, it adds focus and depth without feeling graded, but like overscan and the film imperfections, it's a stylistic choice, effective in moderation, but it's distracting if you notice it. Next up is monitor, and this doesn't actually change the look. It helps you check your exposure. False color breaks the image into brightness zones so you can quickly see where the skin tones sit and whether anything's too dark or too bright. Clipping indication highlights crushed shadows in blue and the blown highlights in red. So this is just like a quick confidence check. You can switch on, make sure nothing's breaking, then turn it off again and carry on. Next we've got output, and this is probably the most basic. It only has this total impact slider, and that controls the overall impact of all the effects applied by the Dehancer. Next we've got LUT generator, which lets you save your Dehancer look, so you can keep that same film style across different shots. You can also use this LUT in your camera or your field monitor, so while you're filming in log, you can preview your final film mood on set. You're not recording the grade into the footage, you're just seeing the contrast and the color bias as you're working. But LUTs can't carry pixel level effects like grain, halation, or scratches. What you see live is the core film behavior. This is like trying on your grade glasses. And lastly, we have device, and you can see it's just ghosted out, but it's telling me that it's using my NVIDIA GeForce RTX card. So let's have a look at the Photoshop example. Let's do a portrait in Photoshop. I'm going to choose Portrait 400, lift the midtones slightly, warm skin, just a touch, add gentle grain, tiny bloom in the highlights around the face. Don't forget that if you're a hybrid shooter, you're doing photos and video, having the same look in both is a big plus. Dehancer also exists on iOS, and it's surprisingly good. You get proper film emulation, palation, bloom, grain, all running in real time on your iPhone or iPad. I'm running it here on an iPhone 16, and it works with pictures and video. It's not a replacement for desktop grading, but for mobile edits and quick looks or developing a film style on the go, it's a genuinely powerful tool, and it runs really nicely on iPad. So, Dehancer, who is it for? It's going to be a good fit for you if you want that predictable film feel, if you make cinematic content, documentaries, short films, you like film but you don't want to scan and process it, if you want that consistent film look across your photos and your video, maybe you want your work just to feel more organic rather than looking processed. And then maybe this isn't going to be for you if you're doing clean corporate work, and it's not going to be for people who want everything sharp and clinical. This is about feel, not perfection. So all of that emulation work is going to be using your GPU. So if playback struggles, you might want to drop the preview resolution. Having said that, my playback is silky smooth, and I have an Intel Core i9 14000 series, and I've got a mid-range RTX 5070, and it's playing back with no problems at all. If you're new to grading, or you just don't want to spend hours tweaking curves and nodes, this gives you a very convincing film look quickly. It's not a gimmick, it's not an Instagram filter dressed up as a plugin, it's genuinely modeling film behavior, and I hope you agree that it shows. There's a link in the description, there's a discount code, and yes, it does support the channel if you use it. Now, just for a bit of fun, I want you to tell me which 5 movies I have taken clips from. Leave a comment to tell me what you think they are, and also tell me your favorite film look. And I'll see you for the next one.